While the existing dwelling locations are not precedent for this application, the dwellings along the riverside of Bramley River Road indicate comparable distances are part of the existing landscape and provide support that a healthy river system can exist with dwellings inside the 100-metre zone. We respect the concerns of the council and the community in relation to the river proximity, and we will demonstrate the environmental safeguards we have taken to support continued protection of the river. The scheme's 100-metre provision is important and has been expressly considered in our proposal. However, it is not the only planning test. The scheme does expressly allow council to permit development closer to the river on private land where a foreshore reserve exists, where planning is satisfied there will be no adverse environmental or landscape impact. We understand why the proximity of the chalets to the river has caused concern. To address this, the proposed irrigation land application area is well outside the 100-metre environmental setback. It exceeds the recommended irrigation dispersal area. Each chalet will have an individual tailings treatment unit, and the irrigation will be located approximately 397 metres away from Margaret River and 251 metres away from the waterway. Additional protections come from the sealed treatment system technology of the eco-friendly system assigned to each chalet. The Talex system we have specified is already certified by the Department of Health, has been designed for its intended use and is being used in the Shire already, and achieves a treatment standard 65 times cleaner than standard systems. Following a development approval, we will undertake and satisfy the requirements of the Department of Health approval process. For my family, and this proposal is much more than just 6 chalets. It's the first step in restoring this farm and caring for the land and continuing its agricultural productivity. We are committed to a low-impact tourism, creating a place where guests can recharge, reconnect, and enjoy the natural beauty of the farm and land while leaving with a sense of rejuvenation. We are committed to this property and the community, and we hope to make connections and a home and a lifetime of memories on this land. And this is the first step. We respectfully ask the council to support the proposal and our vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. If you just want to stay there for a moment, there may be some questions from council members. Do I have any questions? Councillor Boland.
Yes, thank you. I think I've got 3 or 4. Thanks for your presentation. Just wanted to check, your address was Bramley River Road? Of
the actual, yeah. Where the site is, yes. Yep.
No, but do you live there? You gave your address
No,
before.
I don't live there. My home address?
Yes, residential address is usually given.
97 North Street in Swanbourne.
Oh, right, okay.
Yep.
And is there any residence on the property? That there's
Not
there's
yet.
Something north ends, there's northern lot and southern lot, so no residence there?
No residence as yet.
And
the plan is to have a residence there. Yeah.
All right, what's the plan
in the future,
around that?
In the future, 5-10 years from now, we want to build a home there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in our material, it said that the northern portion of the lot would be utilised for grazing. I wasn't sure whether that meant north of Bramley River Road or still south of Bramley River Road and the northern part of this area south of Bramley River Road. So.
Yeah, so west of the site will be used for grazing, so south of Bramley River Road, and then north of Bramley River Road, there's a section there which is the other half of the farm, which runs up against Cane Road, and that's going to continue to be farmed and used for grazing cattle and so forth.
Right, okay. And just your second slide, I wasn't sure what that was trying to demonstrate to us. I don't know whether we can go back to that.
Go back? Great question.
Maybe it's the next one with aerial sites. Maybe it's the next one. Yeah, what was that demonstrating to us?
That's demonstrating that within 2 kilometre radius of our site along Bramley River Road, there is multiple dwellings established already, and they're all within 100 metres of the river. And the point we're making is that it doesn't give us a planning precedent to build within that period of 100 metres, but the river is really healthy, even though these homes still exist inside that area.
Okay.
And our proposal is an off-grid eco-retreat, which will leave little or no impact on the land around it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. They were my questions.
Does
Thanks.
that help?
Okay. Are there any other? Yes, Councillor Muir.
Thank you, Mr Coffey. There's been a lot of feedback in the submissions about bushfire risk and also increase in traffic.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you've thought about specific instructions for potential guests in terms of exit, because it looks like if you go out from the northern part, then you necessarily won't be going along Bramley River Road. I just wondered if you could give us a few details about what instructions you might be giving to potential guests about accessing the property or addressing some of those concerns about traffic and bushfire.
Not a problem. I think I can go back. The third slide is an indication of one of the house rules where we will, when someone books a stay, how to enter the property and come from where they are. We're typically expecting a lot of customers from the metro areas, and so then they'll come down Jindong Treaton Road, along Osmington Road, down Cane Road, which avoids the traffic along Bramley River Road, which is where probably a lot of the dust does come along that area there. So we will be encouraging coming in and out of the actual property that way, which is mostly the way we use it, and a lot of the neighbours do as well. Yeah. In relationship to the fire, that'll go back to there's a bushfire management plan in place already and been approved by the council and the DFES, and that has two exits. It's that same exit, which is out the same way, and then the second exit is west along Bramley River Road. Yeah.
And sorry, just I had a question in regards to your slide. I've forgotten which one. You said something about fallen timber and
Yeah.
and I just, could you explain a bit more what you mean there?
100%. Yeah. So the Kane family had farmed the farm for four generations. It had been set up for dairy farming, and so when they set up the farm for dairy farming, they actually had put the paddocks and the tree lines separate to each other. So the tree areas had never been used as a paddock for decades, and so they'd been misused and not taken care of, and were a fire risk in themselves as well. So we've realigned fence lines already, and we've started clearing those tree lines so that the cattle can actually access that area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
So, sorry, you mean you're clearing tree lines?
No, not clearing. So what you have is all the old trees fall over and die, and that means there's no access routes through the actual the paddocks. So we remove the dead debris essentially and move it out of the road to reduce the fire risk. Yeah. So there's along the fire breaks, you'll see there's lots of trees falling over. We've been removing them out of the way. Yeah.
Are you aware that those fallen trees are really important habitat for a lot of native species?
Yep.
Yeah. So in fact, clearing away fallen logs and timber along those areas is actually not improving the environment, it's destroying habitat.
No worries. Taken on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillors, are there any other questions for Mr Coffey? Thank you, Mr Coffey, for your deputation. I'm going to exercise my discretion in the procedure of deputations. Normally, with councillors, we would have the opposing deputations read out first or presented to us first, and then that may trigger questions in regards to the developer or proponent's deputation. In this case, we've heard from Mr Coffey first. So I will allow, if you do have any questions, allow Mr Coffey to respond post the deputations that will be presented to us if he wishes to stay around.
Thank you.
So I'll now call up Mr Richard Dosser, please. Okay, sorry, we're just, if you want to get ready, Richard, that's okay. We're just going to, the children are going to leave the chambers, so thank you. We'll just allow them to exit. Thank you, Mr Marsall, for your making this happen. Thanks. See you, students. See you next year, or in here one day. Okay. Thank you, Mr Dosser. If you would like to state your name and address, please, before you commence your deputation. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, President and members of Council. My name is Richard Dosser. My address is 940 Bramley River Road, and my western boundary is adjacent to the boundary of the property that Mr. Coffey has just talked to about. I read the agenda for this meeting a few days ago, and I noticed a reference to a low-impact short-term accommodation. Now, I'm not quite sure what the definition of low impact is. I suspect it's somewhat subjective. I'm not sure that the proposal suggested here on lot 2294 is quite low impact. If we go about 1,500 metres to the north on Osmington Road, there are 2 blind cows glamping, and whilst you can see 2 of the units clearly from Bramley River Road for a short period of time, I would see that as low impact. But if I foresee myself driving down Bramley River Road in a couple of years' time, there are going to be 4 clearly visible chalets, and 1 definitely visible, and 1 within trees is not visible. So I don't really see that. When you include that there will be interconnecting roads, there will be car parks, and there will be other appurtenances to each chalet, I struggle to see that as low impact. Now, I'm sure you're aware, you'll have read submissions from a number of different residents, myself included. Some of the problems raised I will not touch, but there's a couple that I know Mr. Coffey has addressed them. One is the issue of wastewater management and disposal. I'm not convinced that I've heard an adequate solution to that, particularly when we have some low-lying land next to the river and which has been known to flood in past times. The other issue addressed briefly was the single exit route. There are several chalets which will have up to an 800-metre only one-way run to get to the junction of Cane Road and Bramley River Road along a relatively narrow, unsealed road, and potentially in times of limited visibility and also in times where traffic and emergency service vehicles may be going in both directions. So I'll leave those items on the table, but there is another fundamental factor that I don't believe has been recognised at this point. And the property this is going on, as Mr. Coffey said, has been farmed for four generations of the Cane family. So it goes back over 80 years. It was a property of about 450 acres, but had 3 separate titles. Hence, there's now 3 different owners of that property. What I see here is a precedent, but I'm not quite sure that we've looked at what's going to happen in the future. There must be multiple large properties in the Margaret River Shire in the 400 to 500 acre size that are on multiple titles. I would suspect that many of those are in a space like me, of the older baby boomers, and if we read the AFR yesterday, you'll have learnt that all baby boomers started turning 80 this year. I'm not quite at that level yet, but I'm not that far off.
Sorry, just 1 minute left if you can.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have much to go. So my message is, I think there's a serious potential here over the next 5, 10, 15 years for a number of properties to change hands, where multiple land titles will become available, and there is a risk that on many of those, there may be the same, with the precedent being set, there may be the same view to put in a lot more short-term accommodation, which may or may not be beneficial. Margaret River is a beautiful shire. It's got a unique agriculture, horticulture, and lifestyle factors. Lots of people love to come here, and I like living here. So, councillors, over to you to think about not today or tomorrow, but 5, 10, 15 years, and how the Shire might look. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your deputation. We now have a...
Any question?
does anyone have any questions, councillors?
Okay.
Councillor Boland?
Well, I suppose something arises. It's probably more a question for the administration about what Mr. Doss is saying about exploiting lots to put developments on. I don't know whether maybe our admin comments on that later or comments on it now. I think what Mr. Doss is saying is that you're saying a property might consist of a number of lots, and there could be an application for each lot to have, say, 6 chalets.
Yes, I wouldn't expect all 3 lots of one group, but close to my property, there are 4 properties with multiple titles. 2 across the river from me and 2 on Osmington Road, Bramley River Road. I don't know how many properties there are on other roads, there must be, but I suspect there are many others with multiple titles.
Thank you. Councillor Boland, can I suggest that we ask that when we deal with the item, if you just hold that question for the planners, I think that's an appropriate time.
Thank you.
Any other members wish to ask any questions? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Dosser. We'll now ask Leanne Prestipino, please, for your deputation. Councillors, for your information, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ms Prestipino, but you have, I have given approval for 3 deputations. One is yours, one is Louisa Barnacle and the other Veronique Plazi, and that you intend to read all 3?
Yes,
Yep.
correct.
Okay, and if you could please keep each one to 5 minutes, that would be great.
I'll do my best.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Leanne Prestipino, 1063 Bramley River Road, Osmington. This discussion is regarding the protection of Margaret River, environmental and effluent disposal considerations. My requested outcome from today, deferral of a decision to grant on the basis that an identified environmental risk cannot simply be managed through a subsequent approval process, that adequate information is required at the time of planning to determine site suitability and to inform design. Council is also asked to impose the condition that irrigation fields associated with an on-site effluent disposal system are not to discharge wastewater within 100 metres of the Margaret River or its tributary. The issue before Council is whether it is satisfied here at the planning approval stage that the proposed development is appropriately located and that the potential impacts of an on-site wastewater disposal system have been adequately identified and addressed. I believe not. In this case, there is a legitimate and foreseeable risk that wastewater contaminants can enter the Margaret River and its catchment. The proposal requires an effluent disposal system for 6 chalets in very close proximity to the river and its tributary, and on low-lying land that drains directly towards the river. The location therefore demands a particularly rigorous assessment of the potential interaction between the proposed effluent disposal system, the site's soils and groundwater, surface water drainage and the Margaret River environment. We understand that the Department of Health has raised concerns regarding the site and soil evaluation submitted by the applicant. Of particular significance is that the evaluation did not make reference to the environmental features that could be affected by effluent wastewater. This raises a fundamental question: what environmental features have actually been assessed and how has their sensitivity influenced the proposed development? The proper consideration of wastewater impacts would ordinarily require considerations of matters including topography, soil characteristics and permeability, groundwater, surface water drainage, flood-prone or low-lying land, waterways and wetlands, drainage pathways and erosion potential. These are not abstract considerations in this case, they are directly relevant to this proposal, which is situated within metres of the Margaret River and its catchment. The environmental sensitivity of this location should therefore be treated as a material planning consideration. Rather than accepting an assessment that the Department of Health has not been prepared to accept, Council should defer its decision until the applicant demonstrates that all relevant environmental factors have been properly assessed and incorporated into the design and siting of the proposal. Given the site's proximity to the river, Council should also question whether the site is suitable for any development reliant on effluent wastewater disposal before granting approval. Council should require clear evidence that the site can sustain, over the long term, effluent wastewater disposal without unacceptable environmental risk. This would be prudent and precautionary, particularly where the environmental consequences of an inadequately assessed site and wastewater system could be significant and difficult to reverse. Importantly, the Department of Health framework provides an additional safeguard by identifying a 100-metre separation distance between effluent disposal, irrigation and waterways. The existence of this separation requirement is particularly significant in this case where the proposed chalets are located far less than 100 metres from the Margaret River. It demonstrates that proximity to waterways is not merely a technical detail to be resolved at the building or wastewater installation stage. It is a recognised safeguard against the potential risks associated with on-site wastewater disposal. Council should therefore not rely on the assumption that the location and operation of the effluent disposal system can be adequately resolved through any subsequent process. At the very least, Council must see fit to impose the following condition now: that irrigation fields associated with on-site effluent disposal systems are not to discharge wastewater within 100 metres of the Margaret River or its tributaries.
Okay, sorry, that's your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Was that it?
That's it.
Well, that was wonderful timing. Thank you. All right, councillors, you can save your questions if you like towards the end, or if you want to ask anything now, you may. All right, I think we'll proceed into the next deputation. Thank you.
Okay, this deputation is for Louisa Barnicle, 1074 Bramley River Road, Osmington. This deputation objects to the application as it contains unresolved risks relating to bushfire emergency management, potable water supply and wastewater treatment. These matters go directly to public safety, environmental protection and Council's due diligence obligations. Council should reject or defer determination unless and until the proponent provides suitable, qualified, site-specific evidence demonstrating that these risks have been assessed, mitigated and independently verified. Number 1, bushfire emergency planning. Issues to consider. How will guests safely evacuate from the second and third driveways? Is there an emergency management plan that addresses up to 20 guests plus staff and visitors? Was the local volunteer fire brigade informed about the application? How was their feedback taken into account? Number 2, potable water supply, quality and quantity. Issues to consider. Where is the potable water coming from? Where is the dam located? Has water quality and quantity testing been undertaken for potable water from September to April in hot and dry conditions? What mitigating plans are in place should the supply not be up to drinking water standards? What climate mitigation strategies are proposed for water supply? Number 3, effluent treatment systems. Issues to consider. In a sensitive environment with 1100 millimetres of annual rainfall, there is a very significant risk that spraying or dripping treated effluent into saturated clay would create immediate surface runoff and environmental offence. The Tilex effluent treatment system, which I believe is to be used, relies on slowly discharging via controlled surface or subsurface irrigation. How could that take place in this region in winter in already saturated clay soils? A Tilex system under local council rules requires quarterly inspections, and additionally the manufacturer requires mandatory quarterly servicing to check chlorine levels and the pump. This indicates a high risk of the system malfunctioning with no on-site manager. Did the site and soil evaluation do the site soil percolation test? What were the results, and were they used to determine the size of the land area for irrigation? When installation of a TALEX system is proposed in a high rainfall area, the standard lookup tables cannot be utilised. They need to be replaced by a computer modelled monthly water balance. That is, rainfall plus wastewater discharge. Was this done? Is land available for such a large area of effluent discharge at least 100 metres from the Margaret River? According to TALEX, detergents, chlorine, bleach, high sodium and phosphorus cause interference to the effluent system. How will this be prevented? A plunge pool's discharge also contains sodium and chlorine. How will this be avoided close to the effluent treatment system? TALEX states that heavy clay soils react poorly to inappropriate substances being put into their systems, causing significant malfunction as they destroy soil structure and prevent proper drainage. How could this be avoided, especially in winter? How would a system's malfunction be addressed in future? Who would be responsible for detecting any of these issues given there is no on-site manager?
Okay, thank you. Any questions now, councillors, or do you wish to? We'll move into the next deputation. Thank you. The final deputation, which is Veronique Plazi's deputation.
Veronique Plazi of 1510 Osmington Road. This deputation is to reiterate my strong objection to this tourist development application already detailed in my previous correspondence concerning fire safety, amenities and the impact on the rural character of the area. In addition to my previous objection, I want to add that it seems particularly contradictory that while landowners and community organisations are being constantly and rightly encouraged to protect, rehabilitate and revegetate our waterways and restore the natural environment around the Margaret River, a 6-chalet tourist development is being considered in such close proximity to the river. This is a responsibility that we as landowners in Osmington take very seriously. I would therefore ask the Shire to confirm 2 matters. 1, wastewater and water quality. Can the Shire confirm that the proposed wastewater septic system complies fully with all applicable health and environmental requirements for a development of this scale and location, particularly given that the Shire identifies properties close to the Margaret River as sewerage sensitive areas? Number 2, Aboriginal cultural heritage. Can the Shire confirm that the proposal has been appropriately assessed and discussed with the relevant Wadandi traditional custodians, given that the Wooditjup, the Margaret River, holds deep and continuing cultural significance and is described by the Shire itself as the heart of Wadandi Budja? There may be Aboriginal cultural heritage issues at play. The development will be adjacent to the Margaret River and a tributary. The Margaret River and other watercourses would invariably constitute an Aboriginal site for the purpose of the Aboriginal Heritage Act WA 1972. Given this, what processes have been undertaken to ensure that the proposed development will not damage, alter or otherwise remove any of this Aboriginal sites for the purpose of Section 17 of the Act? If the Council is concerned that there are Aboriginal heritage sites that may be impacted by this development, then the decision should be deferred until a suitably qualified report is available. I respectfully ask Council to consider these matters carefully before determining the application.
Thank you for that final deputation. Are there any questions for the deputy or otherwise? Yes, Councillor Bell.
Sorry, my questions are to Mr Coffey.
Okay,
so,
we'll
yeah,
just deal with any questions that we have for the deputy for now, and if not, we'll move. Yes, Councillor Boland.
Thank you. Yeah, just have a few. We don't get the names of the submitters in the attachment that we get, so I don't know who's submitted what. Your submission was around deferral. I wasn't sure whether you'd previously put in objecting to approval or you're just seeking deferral. And I'll contrast that maybe with Louisa Barnacle, who said she wants rejection, and then Veronique Plazzi, she referred to her previous submission and then mentioned deferral. So I'm trying to understand where all the submissions today land. Is it, say for instance yours, is it refusal, you're an objector to approval here?
Deferral until all of the information is gathered and council have a better understanding of the site's suitability, given that we're dealing with a sewage treatment plant which has potentially some issues of malfunction without an on-site manager, and the fact that we're within metres of the Margaret River and its catchment.
Yep. Another question just around your residence. You gave your address as Bramley River Road. Was one of your properties in that slide that came up before, about 8 properties within a 2 kilometre radius of this site? You recall the slide that came up before?
I'm not sure.
There was showed 8 properties within a 2 kilometre radius.
My property is not on the southern side of Bramley River Road, if that's what you're asking. We're on the northern side.
Yeah.
So we're not within, we're a long way from the river.
Right. You may have been...
I think the images were showing that there were properties with sewage systems or some sort of... Is that what you were demonstrating, that there were sewage
maybe.
systems? I don't know what that slide was indicating, what you're asking.
It was, I think what was being shown was, there's plenty of other properties here close to the river already on Bramley River Road.
Yeah.
So
we're
should this be treated?
several hundred metres from the river. If that's what
Okay.
you're asking.
Yep. The 2 kilometre radius, I think, is relevant to people who get notice of the proposal. I think that's how that
Yeah,
comes about.
non-agricultural use in an agricultural zone, the current policies is within a couple of kilometres. Yeah, yep, that's correct.
So maybe you're outside that 2 kilometres. It doesn't mean that you can't have your views on it.
No, we're within 2 kilometres.
Oh, you are?
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
Okay. So
All right.
probably one of those properties shown before was one of your properties, I guess.
Councillor Boland, we might
Anyway,
just not
yep.
continue to have a conversation with the deputy. It's more an opportunity to clarify specific questions. So I think unless there's any other questions directly for the deputy, we might move to the proponent.
Sorry, I was just trying to clarify because I think it may be relevant to who has come and objected.
Okay.
But I think
Yep.
anyone's entitled to come and have their say.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, councillors, I'm going to allow, if you've got any questions, to ask to the first deputy that we had, unless, does anyone have any questions? Yeah, okay. Would you mind coming back up? Thank you. And council will ask some questions. Where the microphone preferably, please. Thank you. All right, councillors, go for it. Councillor Bell.
Mr. Coffey, my query relates to the continued grazing of the rest of the lot. So just for clarity, there will be grazing on that section that's south of Bramley River Road, but to the west of the chalets, so the west of that tributary.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and you'll be constructing a fence between the chalets
Correct.
and the paddock that's got the cattle in it.
Yep.
Will that tributary that runs north-south
Yes.
be located on the paddock side of the fence or the chalet side?
It'll be on the chalet side, yeah. There'll be no change to the fencing along the tributary or the waterways. So the tributary runs north-south?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so to the west side of that, there's a cabin, a chalet there, and then to the west of that, there'll be a new paddock formed for the cattle to go in.
Okay, so that fence is there in existence already. It
Yep.
won't be
Yeah, yeah.
put in.
There's fencing along the tributary the whole way down, and keeping it separate to the paddocks at the moment, and also along the river line.
Okay, so the cattle will be excluded from that tributary?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks for that.
no worries.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Councillor Boland?
There was just something that came up in the submissions, which was saying that there'd be no on-site manager for these chalets. Is that the case?
There is going to be, well, we've got to have local management. We've already appointed local managers. So when it gets to that point, there is people going to be on site daily. They're locally in Margaret River. They work from here. So yeah, there's no issues with management on site.
So when you say on-site daily, we're going there to clean and whatever
The
else?
cleaners going there. Their contract is to go and attend it on a daily basis, mate, if there's people there, because it's going to be taking care of people, the guests.
Yep.
Yeah.
And no one overnight, though. Is that right?
No one overnight. No. Yeah. But the guest rules
on
will have-
call.
Sorry.
On call.
On call, 100% on call, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Yeah, so they'll be available all the time.
Are there any other questions, councillors? No. All right. Thank you. Thank you for responding. Thanks.
No
Well,
worries.
councillors, we'll now move into the rest of the meeting. So item 8 is petitions, and I don't believe we have any. Item 9, announcements from myself, and I think it was wonderful, wasn't it, councillors, to have the young people in today, their willingness to be here and to learn more about how local government works. I think it's really encouraging to see them taking an interest in their community and how decisions are made. And of course, while council spends a lot of time dealing with today's challenges and opportunities, we're constantly thinking about the future, and they play a large role in, making us think about their future. I'm also pleased to announce the recent state government funding for the Cormorant Roundabout project of $5 million. It's a significant outcome for our community and an important step towards improving safety and traffic flow in one of our fastest growing areas. As our population continues to grow and visitation increases, investment in critical infrastructures such as this becomes increasingly important. So I'd like to thank all of those involved in advocating for and progressing this project. Last week, the CEO and I joined representatives from the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions for a tour of the Leeuwin Naturalist National Park. It was a really valuable opportunity to discuss some of the challenges associated with managing one of WA's most visited national parks, including visitor pressures, workforce shortages, housing challenges and funding constraints. They're all really relevant items of discussion for that particular issue. So those discussions reinforce the importance of continued advocacy to ensure this nationally significant asset receives the support and investment it requires. The CEO and I attended the Walga Southwest Country Zone meeting in Harvey last week, and there was considerable discussion regarding long-term solutions for FOGO processing in the southwest. I was pleased to move a motion seeking presentations from relevant state government agencies to the zone members so the local governments can better understand the progress towards a sustainable regional solution. I'd like to congratulate everyone involved in the recent Volunteer Voices and Community Conversations event. It was so wonderful to see so many volunteers and community organisations represented. The evening was a timely reminder of the enormous contribution volunteers make to the vibrancy, resilience and connectedness of our community. So on behalf of Council, I'd like to thank all of our volunteers for the work that they all do every day in our community. And finally, councillors, it is with deep sadness that I acknowledge the recent passing of Mark Lane, CEO of Surfing Western Australia. Laney, what a legend. A strong supporter of our region and played an important role in ensuring that our community shared in the benefits of the many surfing events hosted here, namely, of course, his connection with the WSL Pro. He was passionate about surfing and about community and was tireless in bringing those two passions together. So on behalf of council, I extend our sincere condolences to Mark's wife, Elizabeth, family, friends and colleagues at Surfing WA, Vale, Mark Lane. Item 10, questions from members of which due notice has been given, and I have not received any. And we move into item 11, reports and committees and officer reports. So, councillors, our first item on the agenda is 11.2.1 on the screen there. We have an officer recommendation. And I just suggest that we get a motion on the table, and then if you've got questions for the staff, that we deal with those straight up. Yes, Councillor Bell.
Yeah, I would like to move the officer recommendation and for shadow an amendment.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Bell to move the officer's recommendation, and a seconder. Anybody? Councillor Winter, thank you. Okay, so we've got that motion on the table. Councillor Bell, you foreshadowed some amendments, so we'll deal with those first.
I would like to introduce the following amendments, and that is an additional condition that irrigation fields associated with on-site effluent disposal systems are not to discharge water closer than 100 metres from the Margaret River and its tributary. And the second condition is effluent is to be disposed of by means of a secondary treatment system only.
Okay, Councillor Bell has put that amendment on the table, so we need a seconder to consider that. Is there someone, Councillor Muir, to second that? Councillor Bell, you now may speak to your amendment. Thanks.
Yeah, now the development as raised through the deputations and submissions is really close to the Margaret River and has the potential to impact on the water quality of this extremely significant waterway. An important element of protecting the water quality is keeping the wastewater disposal areas 100 metres away and requiring secondary treatment systems. Now, this is consistent with state planning policy and advice from the Department of Water and Environmental Regulations. Now, there's two ways of enforcing these requirements. The first way is to just deal with it through the approval processes for the effluent disposal systems and advice from the Department of Health. But I note that the Department of Health is not the lead agency for water quality and the protection of public drinking water source areas. That agency is actually the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation. The second way of enforcing these requirements is a condition of development approval. And this is enforceable under planning legislation in addition to the health regs. It will also run with the use of the land. So if this property changes hands at any time in the future, it's more likely that the owners will be aware of it when they, take over the management of the property, upgrade or replace the effluent systems. I think that it's the most appropriate way to manage that risk. It's consistent with state policy, and it addresses the risk appropriately.
Is that it, Councillor Bell? Yep. All right. So, Councillor Muir, do you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bell, for putting this forward. Certainly in a drying climate, water scarcity is a concern, and it's going to be an ongoing concern. And there's unique flora and fauna within the Margaret River and its tributaries which require, clean water to survive. And it's incumbent upon us to ensure we're putting in place every measure to keep the water quality high. So thank you for ensuring this takes place.
Okay, do I have a councillor to speak against this? Or for it? Councillor Boland.
Yes, I'll speak in favour of the amendment because I think it improves the situation, but I'm not sure that it improves it to the overall satisfaction. But anyway, we'll come to that somewhat later. I've got one query coming out of what Councillor Bell has proposed as an amendment, and then there were a couple of other matters that were hanging from before, so I don't know whether it's time now to ask for the
Councillor,
admin.
we're just dealing with this amendment at the moment.
All right.
So if we can just keep the focus on that and then, yeah.
So could I just check with the admin though that the condition dealing with on-site treatment and disposal of wastewater is condition 18 and its referral, it's got to be to the satisfaction of local government / Department of Health. So I assume that means local government and Department of Health prior to occupational development. Is that the condition that's also relevant to what Councillor Bell is putting forward?
Thanks, Councillor Boland. We'll just get some clarification on that. I guess the question is around this amendment's impact on the already existing conditions in the motion that we're going to deal with in a minute.
Sure, yeah, that's understood. No, I think those conditions can work together. The first is that they need, that the proponent needs approval to install the systems, and then the additional conditions, which would be 25 and 6, specify certain characteristics that any system would need to have. The application for the systems comes in to the Shire, but we then refer it to the Department of Health. And if those conditions are supported by council, we will make the Department of Health know they seek our feedback on the application. So we'll pass them through to the final decision maker.
Yep, Councillor Boland.
After a follow-up on that one, or I had a different question, which was about the part 1 of the amendment, which is that not to discharge water closer than 100 metres from the Margaret River and its tributary. So the tributary, I guess, is that water that crosses the land. Yeah, so is this going to impact the siting of any of the chalets if not to be sited? So it wouldn't mean, because of this amendment, it would mean couldn't be within 100 metres of that tributary, and that seems to be, would be relatively close to chalets, but yes, comment?
No, it won't affect the siting of the chalets. There will be the ability to be flexible about where the water is discharged. So it won't affect the siting of the chalets themselves.
Okay. I've just got a question in regards to this amendment and its relevance within the special control area, which this is. So just in the report, I'm just wondering if there's any implications of this amendment in regards to the process for that. So it says that the application, where an application for development approval is identified as incompatible or conditional use in the Department of Water Quality Protection note, referred to in subclause A, the local government must, within 14 days of the receipt of the application, refer the application to the Commissioner of the Department of Water, inviting written comment. Did we do that? And
no, we didn't. We didn't need to because of the use that's proposed. This particular use isn't identified as being within a category where referral to the department is necessary. Hence, we didn't do that.
okay, all right. Okay, and no, that was my only question. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Forte.
I'm curious, this land is approved for grazing cattle. It might be an ignorant question. What's the difference between having, say, 100 or 200 head of cattle on that land and having their effluent runoff into the river and having 6 chalet treatment units?
I can't tell you the exact difference in terms of nutrient load on the river, but it has been observed, say for example in the Blackwood, the impact of nutrients from dairying on the river. So grazing of animals, yes, can have a detrimental impact on the river.
But you could run cattle on there, no questions asked, if you wanted to, right now?
That's correct.
Anyone wish to speak for or against this amendment? I've got a question in regards to the secondary disposal by means of secondary treatment system only, as compared to what's in the current recommendation. Would you mind just explaining the difference, the implications actually in regards to that? Thank you.
Sure. The condition that's been suggested there neatly reflects what the proponent has advised us in terms of the system that they would like to use on the site. So it's a system that's more sophisticated and treats the water to a higher standard as opposed to a standard septic tank and leach train system.
So the proponent's agreeable with this suggestion?
That's right.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Boland?
Just a minor detail. We've got 1 and 2 as amendments before us, and Mr Cuthbert, I think, referred to 25 and 26. So 1 will become 25, condition 25, and 2 will become condition 26.
Yeah, I would think administratively that would be resolved as additional conditions, so we don't need to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, I'm going to speak to this amendment. Look, it sounds like to me that these additional conditions just re-emphasise, I think, what is intended in terms of appropriate effluent disposal, and the LPS2 clearly states, and all clauses relevant state that there isn't, regardless of this condition existing or not, that there should be any discharge of water closer than 100 metres. So this strengthens that. Yeah, I'm happy to support this motion. I think it just reinforces our values around appropriate effluent disposal and the sensitivities of the Margaret River and its tributaries. So, do you wish to have a right of reply? You don't really need to because there haven't been anyone against, but I will allow you that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that this amendment responds directly to the issues raised through the deputations and the submissions, and I thank the members of our community that have raised them. We really appreciate your input. And I'd also, once again, just like to reiterate that this is consistent with the policy advice from the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation to have those conditions in place.
All right, councillors, we'll put this amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Okay, so that now becomes a part of the substantive motion. Councillor Bell, you moved that and you haven't spoken to it, so if you wish to speak to that substantive motion now, you may do so.
I would like to address some of these other matters that were raised through the deputations. And I would also just like to include a question for the officers as well. Is that okay to do that now?
Yep, yeah, sure. Maybe you suggest that you ask your questions first. That would be great.
Yeah, now?
Yep.
Yeah. My question relates to compliance with State Planning Policy 3.7, so the bushfire policy and guidelines. And I just would like the officers to please comment on compliance with that and the how it was referred through to fire officers.
Yeah, sure. So, as is normal, the proponent prepared or had prepared a bushfire management plan. We sent that through to DFES. Council would be aware that in many circumstances that come before you, we get quite negative feedback from DFAs about the bushfire management plans. This bushfire management plan stood out in that we got quite positive feedback from DFAs. In any event, bushfire management plans need to comply with the state's guidelines, and so we found, and utilising the response from DFAs, that it did.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Cuthbert. So, yeah, I'd like to just address that bushfire risk has been considered by council in accordance with relevant processes. Another issue that was raised was the visual impact. Now, it seems that will be managed through the landscaping plan. There was also concerns raised by Mr Dosser related to the precedent, and precedent's a really difficult matter to deal with through the planning system. We need to look at this each and every application on its planning merit and assess it in accordance with the local planning scheme. And our officers have done a really thorough assessment in that regard. And so, based on the information provided, it does seem to comply with the scheme. And yes, we are mindful of precedent, but we've still got to assess it on the merits. The other issue that was raised through the submissions was sediment management, and I do have concerns regarding the mobilisation of sediment and nutrients associated with that ending up in the Margaret River. But as officers have advised, we do have a local law related to that. So that is the erosion and sediment control local law. Is that correct? Yeah. So I certainly encourage people to have a look at that, including particularly the applicant, and to note that sediment flowing into that really important water resource is something that does need to be managed and controlled. So, yeah, I certainly haven't ignored the feedback from the community, and I think that, and I thank them for raising some really important concerns and issues, and their willingness to protect this beautiful water resource that's so important to our region.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Muir, I believe. Councillor Winter, I believe you seconded this. Okay. Do I have any other councillors who wish to speak against or for this? Yeah, Councillor Muir.
I'd like to speak against this. I think today, councillors, we heard from young people in our community about how important the natural environment is to them. And we also heard, I guess, about how important the identity and sense of place is to young people. They identified how having natural environment and I guess that agricultural past as well is really important to their sense of place and identity. And perhaps for a little bit of context, Mr. Kane and his family were wonderful stewards of that property. For a number of years, they had school children who came out to their property and did planting, extensive planting. He did a huge amount of weed work on his property. He fenced off the tree lines and all that bushland. He fenced that off, and I will never forget the day when he told me excitedly that he'd found a nest with firetail finches in it. So he was very committed to protecting all of that habitat. And I guess I feel really upset to think about that being cleared. And when I think, I guess, about what this proposal is, 6 chalets. That's not in my opinion at least, a low impact development. There is no farming family who's going to be using this as an ancillary to their income. And that was, I guess, the idea of having, I know in the agricultural community sometimes farming families, it's really helpful to have a couple of chalets on the property to help supplement their income. That's not what is happening here, let's be honest. So I can't support this. I think we need to follow the precautionary principle. We need to think about how important our natural environment is. And once this occurs, we can't go back. And I think we need to think about the bigger picture. I think we've had people today talking about what future they want and what they want our environment to look like. And I don't think this proposal is in keeping with that, so I can't support it.
Okay, councillors, do I have someone to speak for this? Or yes, Councillor Keno.
Yeah, I'm comfortable supporting the development, but I also think the amendment gives the council and community some added certainty around protecting our riverways. We all know, that the effluent disposal has been one of the major concerns raised through this application, and while I understand there's separate approval process that should require the 100-metre setback already, I can't see a strong reason not to make that expectation absolutely clear in this approval. One of our topics often at council is sustainable communities. Coming from an agricultural background, I'm absolutely gutted in the way that we're carving up our farmland. But the reality is that when people pay so much for land in this region, it's highly unlikely they will ever make back their money by traditionally farming the land or sustaining themselves. I also recognise the reality of farming today, not just with the cost of the rural land, the ever-increasing cost of living and running a property, along with the regulations. The only way anyone can continue farming these days, especially on small acreage, is diversification. And sadly, into the future, it will be the only way the two can exist side by side. Finding ways to make farmland viable will be a challenge. There are some amazing wastewater treatment options these days because we're always putting our environment first. Our main oval and many others around here have been successfully running on recycled water since 2010, the last 16 years, so long that most people who live here now would have no idea. Water is a significant concern into the future, and I absolutely applaud anyone who is doing this because it's a far better outcome than excavating more dams. So yes, I support the recommendation with the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Keno. Do I have any other councillor wish to speak for? Yes, Councillor Darth. Wish to speak to the motion? Okay, go for it.
This is one that's quite difficult, especially when, like Councillor Muir said, like what would the kids have said if we'd put this up as their example today? But in the deputations, it raised so many questions for me. Thank you so much for coming in and speaking for all the ones for the people that couldn't be here. There was a lot about deferral, but so I've got a bit of a question for the administration then, is for my understanding, deferring it until all these conditions are met is kind of, can you just explain how that process, like how it would unfold? For my understanding of the process, that wouldn't actually help. Like if they don't meet these conditions, the application doesn't move forward. So just to give a bit more clarity about how the deferral would work and what the process is, because that was brought up quite a few times in the deputations.
Sure. It depends what you're talking about. If you wanted to defer the application and request that staff bring you back additional information on this or that, that is something that you could do. But in relation to the way that the conditions work, you're correct in the sense that the applicant won't be able to get their building permit to actually construct the chalets without providing evidence that they have approval for the effluent disposal systems. So just in relation to that aspect specifically, the way that the mechanics of the system work will create the outcome that you're looking for there without you needing to defer it.
Yeah, because there's now 26 conditions, so yeah, it's going to take a while for this process to go forward and to have all those conditions met before even though it's approved with these conditions. So it's a long process ahead still probably. Councillor Forte makes a good point though, that that was one that went, is there a boundary to the river that there is, a fence that there aren't cattle grazing on that 100 metres before the creek line, before the river and the other waterways in the area as well. So, I don't really have much more to say about it other than it seems to be quite a difficult decision to make.
Okay, councillor, is there anyone else who wishes to speak for or against? Councillor Boland?
Yes, thank you. I'll speak against this, but maybe first, could I seek clarification from the admin on that question that came up before about whether this situation of separate lots could be exploited, like properties with multiple lots, and could there be, say, 6 chalets per lot? I know that in the scheme it can be 6 chalets depending on the size of the property, but it was raised that there's the potential for exploitation, and these 6 chalet developments could pop up all over the place. So could we get some clarification?
Get some clarification from the planners around the permissibility of chalets, under the LPS 2, I'm guessing now.
Sure. I think the point Mr. Dosser was making is that someone could, say, own 3 land titles presently and, for whatever reason, sell 2 of them to others who would then want to use them to develop tourism proposals. And he was making the point that by approving this application, you would create a precedent for approval on those parcels of land. And what I would say about that is the scheme specifically provides for this type of development. So whether or not this is land that's been recently purchased off a generational farmer, or whether the proponent is a generational farmer, the same rules in the scheme will be used to judge the application. It'll be judged against the scheme and not against a precedent.
Thank you, Mr. Cuthbert.
I think the point might have been somewhat different, which was that could there be one ownership and, say, 3 lots comprising that title? Could there be, say, for the one title, say 3 lots of 6?
Yes, there could. The rules are per title, not per owner.
Right. I think that expands the scope of what might pop up around the area, and I think Mr. Doss is making quite a good point there, and I think it is something we need to be conscious of. And I'm glad we called this in, actually, because it wasn't coming to council originally, and we used the call-in procedure, which we used sparingly, and I think this has thrown up quite a few issues that we needed to explore, and also for the community to see how decision-making is made around developments like this. There's a few options, I guess. Deferral's been suggested by one of the submitters. We could be rejecting it, or we could be approving it, and we've made one amendment so far. My preferred approach is that we do not grant approval, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think this is essentially, when it comes down to planning decision, it is a discretionary use under our scheme, LPS 1, and I think we have to be satisfied largely that it's a low-impact tourist development, and I'm not sure that it does. It's supposed to be a low-impact ancillary use subordinate to agriculture, and I'm not sure. There's a few elements there but I'm not sure that this is a low-impact development. Landscape has been raised, that there will be 6 chalets on this site, which will be quite an impact on the landscape. I think there are impacts, with water is a really major concern, and the effluent, in such close proximity to the Margaret River, which is, centre of our identity. There's also impacts off-site. I've been concerned about the state of the road. I actually drove it the other day and it wasn't too bad, but I've driven it also when it's been in very poor condition, and this will only increase the load on that road. And I have asked the administration regarding whether there could be some things done around that, such as requiring some, say, bitumisation of entrances to the property, and apparently we don't usually go in that direction. But I think you get a lot of complaints from residents about the state of the road. It's come up in the submissions as well. So I think there's not just impacts on the site, there's impacts off the site, which are increasing impacts as well. The bushfire risk has come up as well. The development being close to the river and on flood-prone land is also an issue here. I know that there's all these workarounds in a way that we could amend this and add that condition, but I just think the cumulative problems with this site is. And I suppose should go to a few more of those, I guess, if there's going to be a refusal, because we'd have to be saying to put in our report, in our minutes, why we didn't go with the officer recommendation. So I think there's some incompatibility with the rural character and amenity of this area to its relatively low density, really just usually just a residence on a farming property. I think there are some other residential properties, and there's also a caravan park down the road, which I think also adds to the load on this road. And what also came up was that the community is concerned about the loss of the amenity of this area, that these proposals are popping up all over the place, and it's in our scheme it's not really that sort of area. It's an agricultural area with the possibility at our discretion that there could be some low impact tourist development. And so, but overall I don't think we have a low impact tourist development here, and with a lot of problems, and so I'm not supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. I'm going to talk to this motion. So I've just got a couple of questions, first of all, to the planners. My first in regards to how much clearing is suggested or will occur in this development?
None is suggested and none is approved.
Thank you. And my second question is around the definition of low impact tourist development. So understanding that this was assessed under LPS 2 and we've since had gazettal of LPS 1 and we've since had gazettal of LPS 2 and the changes of some definitions. So the report mentions a definition set out by LPS 2. I'm just wondering how that changed. Sorry, in LPS 1, how that changed in LPS 2?
LPS 2 isn't gazetted yet, but it could be any day now.
Yep.
Low impact tourism development is something that's defined in both schemes. I don't believe there's any changes to the way it's defined. All right,
that answers my question. And additionally, the road usage, that came up during the consultation, where there was a determination that the extra use on this road was not such an amount as to unreasonably impact the road's condition. respecting that and the position and the reasons why. I'm just wondering, given like just in terms of strategically, when we have like roads like this, where we have developments that incrementally increase and become approved, how is that then determined if it's like an accumulative effect and then the result on the use of the road? How do we as a council normally, in the instance we do suggest that a development would increase the use on the road, what is the normal process for imposing a cost or maintenance on the developer?
If the development under consideration was the thing that resulted in the road no longer being functional, then that's when we would get into talking about what upgrades were required. We typically don't use cumulative methods to assess planning applications because it means that applications which are indistinguishable from one another are all fine until the last one happens and then that one's not. And as has already been said, the way that we look at planning applications is based on their merits. That's something enshrined in planning practice.
Thank you, for confirming that. Whilst it is naturally a consideration in our decision making under the planning system, it isn't effectively. So I just want to address a few things in regards to, because there were some opposers that were questioning what low impact tourist development is, and we have in fact got that really clearly defined in our local planning scheme, and the need for the organisation to assess against that is a requirement of us within our legislative framework. So, you know, that's in the report. I don't think I need to read it out. I feel that it does address that in that it's avoiding ridge lines, it's sensitively located, it's of a scale of nature that it's self-sustaining, and the materials used are low impact. In regards to the effluent disposal, I'm satisfied that these conditions effectively address this development under all the regulations that we need to make our decisions. So, but I guess councillors, what this does ask, questions, I think we're coming up, all of us, in that the conflict of use in agriculture, on agricultural land. But, we must have guidance within our scheme, our legislative framework, as to how we want that to look. And whilst we all want to protect agricultural land for future generations, we have this allowance in our scheme. So if we want to seriously consider changing that, then that's a big discussion to have. We have other examples in the Shire where we've had agricultural proponents with significant agricultural activity that have tried to change the way they're doing things. They put forward a proposal to modify their operations, and due to the opposition of established, eating facilities, so their proposal, this is an example, I think, of the conflict that we're in, is that example was going to deliver greater environmental benefits, undoubtedly, but given the proposal, the proposal's opposition within these other, conflicting agricultural uses, they chose to actually not even pursue that and stay in the position where they are, which has got way worse environmental impacts. So, we're constantly dealing with this conflict of land use, but the fact is that we have to have, that prescription and that use defined in our local planning scheme and the regs, and we do, and we've just updated it. But pretty much it is I think we're in the strongest position we can be, in that non-rural uses, including tourism uses, may only be permitted where agricultural use of the land is existing and maintained, with non-rural uses being incidental to and having a functional relationship with the predominant agricultural use on site. If we were to try and change that to the Planning Minister, we've got Buckley's chance of achieving, I think, what maybe we're suggesting. So unfortunately, we're working within the system that we're prescribed. And, I think that we as a council have fairly clearly described what we feel is appropriate as incidental, or, the retention of the land. So, yeah, for those reasons, I think that we need to approve this development in its current form. Unless anyone else wishes to speak, I think everyone has. Lisa, Councillor Bell, you have the right of reply. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate my support for the officer's recommendation. It's based on their professional assessment in accordance with the local planning scheme. If we are going to refuse a planning application, we should have a pretty high level of confidence that that decision will stand up in the State Administrative Tribunal, bearing in mind that SAP processes are extremely resource intensive for our staff and can be expensive as well. So we should, bear that in mind when we're making our decisions of we need to have a high level of confidence that our decision will be upheld. And I note that based on the officer recommendation, it seems to be compliant with the scheme, which is the most important assessment. I think also just speaking to the agricultural land use, it's really difficult to make a living off the land through conventional agriculture. Regenerative agriculture in particular, it requires significant investment. And it might not pay off. That investment may not pay off for many, many years, even decades. And you need an additional source of income in the interim. And I think that we need to be flexible to allow that this type of land use to supplement and complement regenerative agriculture in our shire. And my biggest concern was the risk to the water resource, and I think that those risks are managed through the additional conditions, so I'm comfortable with that. So I'd like to thank the staff and for their really good, wonderful assessment, and also for everyone that's taken the time to provide input into this application.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillors, we'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? And against? So that was carried. Councillor Muir and Councillor Boland against. All right, thank you. We'll now move to the next item, which is 11.2.2. We have a declaration of interest from Councillor Muir on this item. She will leave the room. All right, councillors, we will now consider 11.2.2. Right, do I have a councillor willing to move a motion? Yes, Councillor Darth?
The Shire's officer's recommendation is written.
Okay, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Boland? Yep. All right, Councillor Darth.
No, it's just a very thorough process and leaves it open for the CEO to appoint the necessary contractors when needed.
Thank you. Councillor Boland?
I'll concur with Councillor Darth. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak for or against this item? Okay, let's put that to the vote. Councillors, all those in favour? That's carried unanimously. We'll ask Councillor Muir to come back in. That was carried unanimously. Thanks, Councillor Muir. Okay, councillors, we now are dealing with 11.3.1, the CEO Performance Review 25-26. So, councillors, we have an officer recommendation in front of us. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Or yes, Councillor Muir, and a seconder, Councillor Forte. Councillor Muir.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really pleased to see this before us. It's outlined clearly how effective our CEO has been, so thank you so much for your hard work and your effectiveness in community engagement particularly, and customer experience. I think that's been outstanding, so thank you. I'm really pleased to see in the KPIs focus on securing funding, strengthening economic growth, and I guess that flourishing of a broader, more expanded local economy, which is really important. And the project management framework, I think that's going to be fantastic to see that implemented across our organisation with prioritisation and consultation threaded through everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing the next financial year. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Councillor Forte.
I think Councillor Muir covered it, but yeah, an important document that sort of highlights the strategic and I guess the vision of where we want to go as a group and how the CEO can implement that moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Forte. Any other councillors wish to speak to this? Councillor Bell? Yeah.
I'd just like to reiterate what the other councillors have said. I think it acknowledges the hard work and the outcomes that have been achieved by the CEO and the staff within the organisation, and provides the direction to build on that success. So, thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Anyone else wish to speak? Carly, Councillor Keno, thank you, sorry.
Kylie's okay at this end of the day, there's no one here. I'm really happy to support this recommendation. I think we've gone through a really thorough process with the CEO review, and having it independently facilitated has given everyone the opportunity to provide feedback and work through not only what has gone well, but also where we want to go from here. The review itself is really positive, and it recognises the CEO's ethical, values-based leadership, the visibility, accessibility in the community, and the relationships he's built with councillors and staff, community members and other stakeholders. For me, that visibility and community engagement has been particularly noticeable. There's been a real effort to get out into our different communities and meet with local businesses and community groups and make the CEO and the organisation more accessible. That connection with our community is incredibly important and an absolute credit to our CEO. The review also recognises some really good progress around customer experience, stakeholder engagement, the ERP replacement and organisational culture, all while dealing with a pretty significant workload and some complex issues. Of course, good performance review shouldn't just recognise what we are doing well, it should also identify where we can do better, and that's where the new KPIs really become important. I particularly like the stronger focus on the economic development, community resilience, agriculture, advocacy and attracting external funding. Economic development was identified in the review as an area we can do more, particularly around investment, business engagement, external funding and measurable outcomes. So it's good to see that reflected much more strongly going forward. I'm also really pleased to see the quarterly briefings to councillors on the progress against the KPIs and the corporate business plan. And this gives us an opportunity to see how things are tracking through the year and address things where needed, and importantly, not get to the end of the year and simply look back. Overall, I think we've ended up with a really good set of KPIs that build on what's already been achieved while being clear about what we need to keep improving. They give the CEO clear direction and the council better oversight and accountability along the way. So I'm really comfortable supporting the recommendation, and I thank the CEO for everything she's achieved to date.
Thank you, Councillor Keno. Any other councillors wish to speak to this? Councillor Boland.
I'll just say briefly, we've got a good report here about our very good CEO. Other councillors have commented how good the performance has been, and I think it would be of confidence to our community to see this report. And going forward, we've got some KPIs for her, and I think it's been a good process to get to where we've got with the report we've got and the KPIs. So very comfortable with where we are at the moment with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Oh, look, I'll just conclude in that I'm really pleased to see the outcomes and the recommendations in this in this summary. And yeah, you've all taken the words out of my mouth. I don't need to repeat that. I just want to make a few comments on, I think, some really great achievements of the CEO and the organisation led by the CEO. I think the change that the community has clearly recognised in that survey process and, you know, ongoing work with stakeholders is the real community-centric focus that this organisation is now clearly defined and displaying, led through the CEO. So I'm really pleased to see that all the recommendations and all the detail in this report, you know, shows the amount of work that's gone into achieving that. And I really like the process. If we just talk about that for a second, the process that we followed to go through this this review, I think it's really quite, you know, I think it's a really great example of how local governments can, working with the CEO, can go through a process so rigorous. The detail in that report, I've never seen such a comprehensive CEO performance appraisal review. It's really great for us as a council and the summary for the community to show the amount of work that, you know, goes into it. I think in terms of this KPIs, we've got some really clearly defined. There are some big ones in there, but going off the work of the previous year and the real strategic focus that I feel confident that our CEO understands where we want to get to in the future, and these KPIs clearly define that with those additional outcomes and measures that we've put in there. So I'm really pleased with this mutually agreed position that we've come to as a council with our one employee. But yeah, I should think that the CEO should be proud of this review. It is very good. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working, you know, with council and the CEO in the next 12 months to tick off these KPIs. And yeah, thank you. All right, councillors, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 11.3.2 is the financial activity statement for June 2026. Do I have a councillor? Councillor Bell, you wish to move that officer's recommendation?
Yeah, as written.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Winter, thank you. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Bell? No, Councillor Winter? If there's no further comments on that, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We now go to 11.3.3, the list of payments for July 26. We have an officer recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move that? Councillor Forte and a seconder. Yep, Councillor Winter. All right, let's put that to the vote, councillors. All those in favour? Carried. 11.4.1 is the Child Safe Awareness Policy. Do I have a councillor to move a motion there? Councillor Boland? Yes. Okay, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Muir? Councillor Boland?
Yes, I'm pleased we're adopting this Child Safe Awareness Policy. It is optional for local governments. I noticed that in the report, a very good report from the administration, and a very good policy that they've put forward. I think it's a credit to us that we are adopting this. It's taken a while to get to local government from the Royal Commission into Institutional Child Sexual Abuse, which reported back in 2017, and I've dealt with a lot of the recommendations of that in my professional life, and so it was very heartening to see this coming through as a recommendation of the Royal Commission that local government is acting on. I think it sets out a lot of good policies for, well, I'm just going to it now, the objectives and to the application, and yeah, there's definitions there. But it is something quite relevant to us because we do have a lot of interaction with children, and they need to be made safe and protected. Whether it's childcare or sport and rec, this is an important area for us, and it will be good to have this as part of our organisational policies. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Boland. Councillor Muir.
Yeah, I just have a question, first of all, actually, for our director. Just in regards to, I guess, it's fantastic to see this initiated, and it's obviously the first step, but where I guess it would be really important is how it's going to be implemented to ensure that every child is safe, because obviously we've got kids who interact with our facilities and services.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Muir. Through the chair, we had some notes prepared that the CEO was going to read, but it's a significant policy, and with the kids here from the high school here today, I thought it would be more meaningful this coming from the CEO, but they're not here anymore, so I guess I'll address it. The Child Safe Awareness Policy is primarily about setting expectations and increasing awareness across both the Shire and the broader community. So adopting this policy is only the first step. The next phase of work will involve engaging with local clubs, associations and community organisations to help translate these principles into practical actions that create safer environments for young people. In terms of community organisations, our focus will be on educating, informing and supporting those that provide activities and services for young people. Many of these groups are volunteer run and are doing their very best, but they cannot always be aware of the practical steps they can take to strengthen child safety. So ultimately our aim is to ensure that wherever young people are participating in community life, whether that's sport, recreation, arts or other activities, the adults and the organisations around them understand their responsibilities and are equipped to provide safe and supportive environments. But I guess in practical terms, we still do need to get to that implementation phase. And so we'll be bringing that back to council informally to share that transparently, but we have a range of, I guess, options available to us. What I just shared focuses more on the supportive end of the spectrum around educating, informing and making sure people are aware of the resources and expectations they hold. At the other end of the spectrum, we obviously hold a lot of leases and funding agreements with organisations in the community, and so we can ensure these expectations are incorporated into those agreements as well.
Thank you very much for that response. I think it's so important that we do have really rigorous strategies in place to protect the most vulnerable people in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Anyone else wish to speak for this? Right. Okay, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12, motions from members of which previous notice has been given. There are none. Item 13, motions for consideration at the next meeting. There are none. Likewise, item 14, new business of an urgent nature. There is none. And item 15, confidential business. There is none. So I therefore close today's meeting at 4 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for your input.